The borrower is slave to the lender. This is not a metaphor. This is not ancient poetry. This is mathematics. In the modern world, we have sanitized the language of obligation to make it sound like a partnership. We use words like credit, leverage, and financing. We celebrate the approval of a loan as if it were an achievement rather than an anchor. But the mechanics of the universe do not care about our terminology. When you owe money to another person or institution, you have surrendered the most valuable asset you will ever possess: your future time. The average person in a developed nation spends approximately 40% of their working life paying for things they have already consumed, using money they have not yet earned, to sustain a lifestyle they cannot actually afford. This is a systemic failure of identity. We have been conditioned to believe that freedom is the ability to buy whatever we want, whenever we want. In reality, true freedom is the ability to say no to the system because you owe nothing to no one. The system is designed to keep you in a state of perpetual work to service perpetual debt. To break the cycle, you must first understand that the chain is not made of iron, but of signatures and compound interest. It is invisible, but its weight is absolute. There are two types of people walking the earth today. The first type is the consumer. To the consumer, a dollar is a ticket to a moment of pleasure. They look at their bank account and see a list of things they can finally buy. When their income increases, their expenses rise to meet it instantly. They live in a state of constant financial high tide, where a single month of low income would leave them stranded on the rocks. They are not necessarily poor in terms of salary, but they are impoverished in terms of peace. They are driven by the psychological need for external validation, using debt to project an image of success that they have not yet built. The second type is the steward. To the steward, a dollar is a seed. They look at their resources and see a forest waiting to be grown. They understand that wealth is not what you spend, but what you keep and put to work. They are willing to live far below their means today, so that they can live far above their fears tomorrow. The consumer works for money. Money works for the steward. The difference between these two paths is not found in their bank statements, but in their self-perception. One sees themselves as a master of resources, the other sees themselves as a victim of desires. One path leads to a legacy of freedom, while the other leads to a legacy of liability. Solomon, the son of David, was recorded as the wealthiest man in human history. His wisdom was sought by kings and queens across the globe. When he wrote the book of Proverbs, he was not guessing about how the world worked. He was observing the unchanging laws of human behavior and economic consequences. In Proverbs 22:7, he recorded a truth that has survived 3,000 years of technological and cultural upheaval. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Notice the precision of his language. He did not say the borrower is the neighbor of the lender. He did not say the borrower is the customer of the lender. He used the word slave. In the original Hebrew, the word is eved. It describes a state of total jurisdictional control. In the ancient Near East, debt was not a digital entry. It was a physical reality. If you could not pay, you or your children were taken into servitude to work off the obligation. While we no longer have debtors' prisons in most nations, the economic principle remains identical. When you owe money, you have moved yourself into a different legal and psychological category. You are no longer fully in control of your labor. You are working to satisfy a claim that someone else holds against your life. Solomon's warning was not meant to shame the poor, but to protect the wise from entering into a trap that looks like a shortcut. +1. When you violate this ancient principle, the damage is not just financial, it is deeply psychological. Debt creates a unique form of cognitive dissonance. You go to work every day, you sit in meetings, you perform tasks, and you tell yourself that you are doing this for your family. But in the back of your mind, you know that the first several $1,000s of your monthly income are already spoken for. They belong to the mortgage company, the car lender, and the credit card issuer. This creates a feeling of powerlessness that erodes your self-respect over time. You begin to feel like a passenger in your own life. This chronic stress affects your ability to make long-term decisions. When you are in debt, your brain stays in a state of high cortisol, which triggers the fight-or-flight response. You become more impulsive. You are more likely to spend money on small comforts to numb the pain of your large obligations. This is the spiral of the borrower. The external debt creates an internal prison where your creativity is stifled by your survival instinct. You cannot take the risk of starting a business or moving to a better career because you are tethered to the monthly payment. The debt has stolen your ability to dream because it has already sold your tomorrow. Modern validation for these ancient truths can be found in the lives of the most successful investors in history. Charlie Munger, the legendary vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, spent a lifetime preaching the gospel of avoiding stupidity rather than seeking brilliance. Munger understood that the fastest way to lose wealth is to use leverage on assets that do not produce income. He often remarked that if you are a disciplined person, you will eventually get rich, but most people are too impatient to wait. This mirrors Solomon's teaching in Proverbs 13:11, which states that wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. Munger called it the power of compounding. Solomon called it gathering little by little. They are describing the same fundamental law of the universe. Similarly, John Templeton, who pioneered global investing, began his journey by saving 50% of his income during a time when most people were struggling. He understood that wealth is a matter of discipline and spirit, not just numbers. These modern figures did not invent new principles. They simply aligned themselves with the timeless laws that Solomon documented thousands of years ago. They proved that the code works in a tent in the desert and in a high-rise in Manhattan. +2. Consider a scenario that reveals the visceral reality of this principle. Imagine two individuals, both earning the same salary, living in the same city, facing an unexpected economic recession. The first individual has lived according to the modern standard. They have a massive mortgage on a home that is larger than they need, two expensive vehicles financed over 7 years, and credit card balances from vacations they took 2 years ago. When the recession hits and they are laid off, their world vanishes in 30 days. They have no margin, they have no options. They are forced to sell their assets at a loss, damaging their credit and their family's stability for a decade. Now look at the second individual. They chose to live in a modest home they could comfortably afford. They drive older cars that are paid for in cash. They have no consumer debt and a 6-month reserve of expenses in a liquid account. When the same recession hits and they are laid off, their reaction is entirely different. They are not in a panic. They have the mental space to consider their next move. They may even use their savings to buy assets that the first individual is being forced to sell. The crisis is the same. The salary was the same. The difference was their relationship to the borrower-slave dynamic. One was prepared. The other was a prisoner of his own impatience. To implement the Solomon Wealth Code, one must follow a set of simple, non-negotiable rules. First, you must kill the monster of consumer debt. This means you never, under any circumstances, borrow money for things that lose value. If it depreciates, you pay cash or you do not have it. Second, you must build a wall of protection. Before you invest a single dollar in the stock market or real estate, you must have 6 months of living expenses in a liquid, safe account. This is your freedom fund. It ensures that you never have to make a decision based on fear. Third, you must refuse to co-sign. Solomon warns in Proverbs 11:15 that he who puts up security for a stranger will surely suffer. When you co-sign, you are assuming the responsibility of a loan without the control of the asset. It is a mathematical error and a psychological burden. If you want to help someone, give them a gift of cash that you do not expect back. If you cannot afford the gift, you cannot afford the co-signing. Fourth, you must practice the discipline of the first fruits. This means giving the first portion of your income to a cause greater than yourself. This breaks the spirit of greed and reminds you that you are a steward, not an owner. Wealth that is not shared eventually rots the heart of the person holding it. Plus 1. This path is not about deprivation. It is about a different kind of abundance. It is about the abundance of peace and the luxury of choice. When you follow the Solomon Code, you are not just managing money, you are training your soul. You are learning to delay gratification, which is the foundational trait of all successful people. You are choosing to be a builder of a generational house rather than a consumer of a temporary moment. This discipline will feel strange at first. You will see people around you buying things you know you could afford but choose not to buy. You will be tempted to return to the slave-master relationship because it is the cultural norm. But remember that the borrower is slave to the lender. Every time you say no to a debt, you are saying yes to your future. Every time you save $1, you are buying a piece of your freedom back. You are capable of this. You are not defined by your past mistakes or your current balance. You are defined by your willingness to walk in wisdom. The weight of debt is not a permanent condition unless you choose it to be. The journey out of Egypt begins with a single step of refusal. Refuse the next credit card offer. Refuse the upgrade you do not need. Refuse the lie that your worth is tied to your possessions. As you begin to pay off your obligations and build your reserves, you will feel a physical lightness in your chest. Your sleep will improve. Your relationships will improve because the primary cause of divorce in the modern world is financial stress. You are not just fixing your bank account. You are healing your home. You are providing a different model for your children. You are showing them that they do not have to be slaves to the system. You are giving them the gift of a clear head and a clean slate. This is the ultimate wealth. It is the ability to look your children in the eye and know that you have protected their future rather than consuming it. Wealth is a slow process, but its results are inevitable for the disciplined. Solomon observed that the soul of the sluggard craves and gets nothing, while the soul of the diligent is richly supplied. Diligence is not just working hard. It is working with a plan. It is sticking to a set of principles when the world is telling you to do the opposite. It is understanding that the laws of money are as fixed as the laws of gravity. If you jump off a building, you fall. If you spend more than you earn, you fail. If you borrow for consumption, you serve. If you save and invest, you rule. There are no exceptions to these rules. The Solomon Code is not a secret for the elite. It is a manual for the humble. It requires no special talent, only a special kind of persistence. It is the persistence to gather little by little until the small piles become a mountain. Plus 1. As you move forward, keep the image of the builder in your mind. A builder does not expect the house to be finished in a day. They focus on the quality of each brick. They ensure the foundation is deep and solid before they worry about the roof. Your financial life is your house. If you build it on the sand of debt and social approval, it will wash away when the first storm hits. But if you build it on the rock of ancient wisdom and modern discipline, it will stand for generations. You are the architect of your legacy. You are the steward of your time. Do not sell it for a pittance. Do not trade your life for a set of consumer goods that will be in a landfill in 10 years. Value your freedom more than your comfort. Value your peace more than your status. The borrower is slave to the lender, but the wise man is a master of his own destiny. The psychological freedom that comes from being debt-free is the greatest wealth one can experience. It changes the way you walk into a room. It changes the way you speak to your employer. It changes the way you view the future. Instead of looking at the years ahead with dread, wondering how you will keep up with the payments, you look at them with excitement, wondering what you will build. You are no longer running away from your past. You are running toward your purpose. This is the goal of the Solomon Wealth Code. It is to move you from a state of survival to a state of stewardship. It is to turn your focus from what you owe to what you can offer. This is where true significance is found. Money is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. When it is your master, it dictates your morality and your schedule. When it is your servant, it expands your reach and your impact. Every unpaid debt is a leak in your bucket. No matter how much water you pour in, the bucket will never stay full until the leaks are patched. Many people think they have an income problem when they actually have a discipline problem. They believe that if they just made more money, their stress would disappear. But history shows that people who win the lottery often end up more broke than they started. This is because they have a high-volume bucket with massive holes. The Solomon Wealth Code is the process of patching the holes. It is the process of ensuring that every dollar you earn has a purpose and a place. It is about creating a system that works even when you are sleeping. This is what it means to be a steward. You are managing the flow of resources with precision and intentionality. You are no longer guessing where your money went, you are telling it where to go. The modern financial system is built on the assumption that you will be a borrower. The commercials, the banking structures, and even the tax codes are designed to incentivize debt. To follow Solomon's advice is to live in opposition to the modern world. It is a form of quiet rebellion. It is a refusal to participate in the mass hypnosis of consumerism. This rebellion requires a strong sense of identity. You must know who you are and what you value more than the culture knows how to market to you. If you do not have a strong internal code, the external world will write one for you, and its code for you will always include being a borrower. You must decide that your peace is worth more than a new car. You must decide that your children's inheritance is worth more than a luxury vacation. You must decide that you would rather be a king in a modest house than a slave in a palace. The first step in this rebellion is to stop comparing your life to others. Comparison is the thief of joy and the architect of debt. Most of the people you are trying to keep up with are actually drowning. Their lifestyle is a facade held up by the very chains you are trying to break. When you stop looking at their house and their car, you can start looking at your own goals. You can start focusing on the simple math of freedom. The borrower is slave to the lender, regardless of how large the house is. A slave in a mansion is still a slave. A free man in a cottage is a king. Seek the cottage of freedom over the mansion of bondage. The peace that comes from owning your own time is far more luxurious than any brand-name item. This is the psychological shift that allows the Solomon Code to take root in your life. As you apply these rules, you will find that your relationship with work changes. Work is no longer a desperate scramble to stay ahead of the bills. It becomes an expression of your skills and a way to create value. You work because you choose to, not because you have to. This change in motivation actually makes you more productive and more valuable in the marketplace. When you are not desperate, you can negotiate from a position of strength. You can wait for the right opportunity rather than grabbing the first thing that comes along out of fear. This is how the rich get richer. They have the margin to wait. They have the reserves to be patient. They are not forced to make bad deals. By following the Solomon Code, you are moving yourself into that category. You are building the capacity to be patient, and patience is the most profitable skill in the history of finance. The ultimate goal of this discipline is generational legacy. Solomon taught that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. This is not just about money. It is about wisdom. If you leave your children $1 million, but you do not teach them the Solomon Code, they will be broke in 5 years. But if you teach them the code, they will be wealthy even if you leave them nothing. The greatest inheritance you can provide is a model of disciplined stewardship. It is showing them, through your daily choices, how to be a master of money rather than its servant. You are breaking the cycle of generational debt. You are starting a new family history characterized by freedom and generosity. This is the highest form of wealth building. It is a work that will continue to bear fruit long after you are gone. The path is clear. The rules are set. The wisdom has been documented for 3,000 years. The only question is whether you will have the discipline to follow it. It will not be easy. It will require you to say no to yourself and no to the world. It will require you to face your fears and admit your mistakes. But on the other side of that discipline is a life of unimaginable peace. It is the life of the builder who has finished the foundation and is now watching the walls rise. It is the life of the steward who has been faithful with little and is now being trusted with much. It is the life of a free man who owes nothing to anyone but love. This is the Solomon Wealth Code. It is your blueprint for a legacy of freedom. The world will continue to offer you shortcuts. It will continue to tell you that you deserve things now that you have not earned. It will continue to celebrate the borrower and ignore the steward. Do not be deceived. The math has not changed. The borrower is still slave to the lender. The interest rate is still the price of your tomorrow. The only way to win is to refuse to play the game of debt. Play a different game. Play the game of gathering little by little. Play the game of the margin of safety. Play the game of the first fruits. This is the game that Solomon played, and it made him the wealthiest man on earth. It is the game that Munger and Templeton played, and it made them the masters of the modern market. It is the game that you are now invited to play. Start where you are. If you are deep in the pit, stop digging. That is the first rule of holes. If you have been borrowing, stop today. If you have no savings, start with $10. The amount is less important than the habit. The habit of the steward is what builds the mountain. The habit of the consumer is what creates the pit. Change the habit, and you change the destination. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are a product of your principles. Choose the principles of Solomon, and you will find the results of Solomon. You are building something that matters. You are creating a trajectory for your family that will last for a century. Do not grow weary in doing good, for in due season you will reap if you do not give up. Close your eyes and imagine a life with no monthly payments. Imagine waking up on a Monday morning knowing that every dollar you earn that day belongs to you and your family. Imagine having the ability to write a check to help someone in a crisis without it affecting your own stability. This is not a dream. This is the mathematical reality of a debt-free life. This is the peace that passes understanding. This is the reward for the discipline of the Solomon Code. It is available to anyone who is willing to walk the narrow path. It is available to you. You are not just managing a budget. You are reclaiming your life. You are reclaiming your time. You are reclaiming your future. The system is designed to keep you small, but you were made for stewardship. You were made for legacy. You were made for a peace that is not dependent on the stock market or the political climate. You were made for the freedom of the Solomon Code. The borrower is slave to the lender, but the wise man is a master of his house. Be wise, be disciplined, be free. Every choice you make from this moment forward is a brick in your new foundation. Build it well, build it to last. Build it with the quiet confidence of a person who knows the code and has the courage to follow it. Go in peace. Walk in wisdom. Remember that the kingdom you build in your mind determines the wealth you hold in your hands. This is the end of the script, providing a continuous narration on the principles of the Solomon Wealth Code, focusing on the identity shift from consumer to steward, the psychological and historical reality of debt as a form of slavery, and the practical disciplined steps required to build a generational legacy of freedom. The tone remains calm, authoritative, and focused on timeless wisdom and modern validation, ensuring no hype or manipulation, but a serious call to responsibility and freedom. This narration is intended to be read in a measured documentary style, allowing the weight of the principles to settle with the listener. By following this code, the individual moves from the instability of the borrower to the unshakable foundation of the builder, ensuring that their financial life is a reflection of their deepest values and a gift to the generations that follow. Freedom is not the absence of rules. It is the presence of the right rules, followed with consistency and heart. The Solomon Wealth Code is that set of rules, proven over 3 millennia to produce wealth, peace, and significance.